Hey everybody, if you've been wondering how to keep the Mustang and DCS from exploding, it's a combination of heat, oil pressure, manifold pressure, cylinder pressure. This thing breaks very easily. There's a couple of things you have to do. When you start the plane, you have to let it warm up. We've got this temperature right here, which is the, I believe, oil temp. Could be coolant temp. I believe it's oil temp though, but it's just a temperature gauge. You want this in the green area and below the red area. The fuel pressure doesn't really matter much, but this oil pressure right here is very important. These two gauges are important. So when you fire the plane up, you need to let it warm up. You can let it get to about here, but the oil pressure needs to be below this, between the two red lines, or damn near on them, in order for you to fly. You can take off in a scramble cold, but you have to be careful. And you have to baby it as soon as you're off the ground. As far as the left side, once the plane warms up, if you're not doing a hot start, this will be back. This is your ram air control. You want that to move. Once it's warmed up, you want to move this all the way forward, this black handle lever on the left. The carburetor warm air control should be cold by default. As for the radiator and the oil coolers, you want to leave them on automatic. You do not want to force them open. You can force the oil cooler open for short-term bursts, like if you're getting hot and you're worried about doing a go-around when you land or something. You can open it for a few seconds, get the coolant temperature down or the oil temperature down, and then re-put it on automatic. The reason you don't want to leave it open is this will start to get too cold. Your oil temperature will start to get too cold. It'll get down into maybe 40. And when the oil gets cold, it gets thicker. And the oil pressure rises and it'll get over 100. And when you jam the throttle or you get the RPMs up, you run a risk of blowing the motor. So you want it in operating range. You want the oil temperature in operating range. That's important. So other than that, those are the settings. Auto, and then both open, right? So other than that, you got to keep an eye on basically this gauge while you're flying. These two gauges, manifold pressure and RPMs. Once you're flying, you never want your RPMs over 25. You're supposed to be able to set them to 30 for up to like 5 minutes in a dogfight. Don't do it. Your motor's going to blow. The P-51 is not designed well. It's made of glass in the sim for some damn reason. Do not ever let it over 25. 25 when you're dogfighting or taking off or climbing in the green area any other time. Cruise closer to 20. Manifold pressure, while just regular flying, you want it in the green. Keep it in the green. While climbing or dogfighting, you can get it up to about 45. You can pretty much keep it at 45, between 40 and 45, almost indefinitely, as long as your RPMs aren't over 20 or low enough. But you can't really go any higher than that. You can get away with short bursts up to 50, 55 up in this range, but only do it if you have to and you risk blowing the motor. The only time it's acceptable, really, to go full out is when you're taking off, which we're about to do. 3 notches of flaps. If you do a cold start up to, we have 5 notches, but 5's never used in flight. That's for getting in and out of the plane. Also, leave it in run. Don't put it in full rich. There we go. We're in run now. Gently increase the throttle. Never slam the throttle. We're stable, so we're throttling back down to 45. And then we're slowly going to bring it down to 25 on the climb out. And drop it down to about there. Just a little out of the green zone. Go to about 40. You can see it's getting a little warm. We're kind of out of our climb. We're going to get that down into the green. This is all day safe. Tip of the green, tip of the green. This should be all day safe. You can climb out in this configuration to altitude. It just takes a little longer. You can probably get away with RPM at 25 and manifold pressure at 45 for an extended climb. However, you never know. But we are on a full tank, climbing out at over 1,000 feet per minute, in the green at over 200 miles per hour. So you don't need to go any faster than this, really, normal flying. We are going to find some planes to shoot at, although I'm not very good at shooting at them, just to show you the engine management. Now, the trick is to never jam the throttle. Never jam it forward, never yank it back. Always smooth throttle inputs. And if you're watching the oil pressure gauge, it'll get hot, start getting close to that red mark. The cooler will open up, it'll cool it down to the lower end of the green, and then it'll start to close again. It'll maintain itself. However, there is a little bit of a pulsation going on there. The oil pressure gets high, gets low, gets high. It fluctuates. If you are in a moment where it's on near the red line, you have less wiggle room to play with. If it's down where it is now, you can give it the gas a little bit if need be. And yes, my HSI is a little off for some reason. I should have recaged it before taking off. I did not notice. Now we are at altitude, or about where we're going to cruise at. This is acceptable. RPM, so is this. And then slowly back off to 30. This is your low power cruise. However, this is fine. This gives you a little bit more oomph. And here we go. We are in short distance cruise now. 20 for long distance. So we have the enemies coming up in sight. Going to gently raise the manifold pressure. And then we are going to go to like 26. We should be safe as long as we're careful. Now, if you bump the RPM with the prop lever, or the P lever, any farther forward, you run the risk of blowing your motor. If you go over 45 manifold pressure at any time, you risk blowing your motor. Why you can take off full throttle, full RPM, full manifold, but you can't fly at all that way? That's a good question, and that's something to ask the people that made this plane. If you can find an answer to that, I would very much like to know what it is. Supposedly it models wear, and we're hurting the motor on takeoff a little bit, but I find that hard to believe that it would be that bad that 5 minutes later the plane just dies. Now, I am not going to guarantee that I'm going to actually hit any of these guys, but you'll see me doing some maneuvers and such, and you'll see how I manage the throttle. Also, a note, the fuel booster is on. The plane will run with the fuel booster off in flight. However, it defaults on hot start to on, and some people say it makes a difference with the plane dying or not. And if you're worried, I recommend just leaving it on. I'm not sure if it's required or not, but it doesn't hurt. As I'm flying like this, I am keeping an eye on that top oil temperature gauge. If it starts hanging around the red mark a little bit too much, I will bump the RPMs back a tad. I should not have to, though. Your speed also affects cooling. If you get under 200, especially with high throttle, the plane will start to heat up. So keep that in mind. A hard throttle, straight up climb is very bad for the plane. Very dangerous. You have to really watch it. Hey, this is pretty much the max setting continuous that's really safe that I know of for sure. And rolling off the throttle to go after this guy, but I'm being gentle with it. Glancing down, getting it to 40, leaving it there. Yeah, I'm way faster than these guys. We're gonna gently push it up to 45 because to get some altitude, checking the temperature, bringing it back a little bit. I don't like how close they are to the ground. Oh, you son of a bitch, he turned in on me. This is why I don't actually like dogfighting with the P-51. Gently bring it into the green. You need... Yeah, you hear the engine kind of struggle a little bit there. Shit. We're getting a little slow. You know what? Screw it. God! These are the, basically the starter planes in War Thunder. Ah. Yeah, they're a little hard to hit. And we are a little towards the red, so I am not going to give it a bunch of gas. We're disengaging, so I'm bringing it back into the green. Let's see, which direction are we facing? Oh, we're going to head back to the airfield here. So we're going to leave her at about those settings. We don't need to save gas. We're not worried about gas. Although, speaking of which, I've been on the left tank for a while. Gonna switch to the right, and we're back up to speed, so we're gonna bring her back here. I don't have to do this. It'll just keep the engines cool for when we land. Okay, when landing, there are some rules you need to follow as well, which is basically the same as in dogfighting, but lower. Basically, you set the RPMs and the manifold pressure to like what's max for climbing out. There is our runway. So we're gonna stay in the green, but bump the RPMs up, but leave them in the green for now. Keep in mind that the throttle does affect RPMs just a little bit on the lower end of things. Gently throttle back till we get down to 200. Drop flaps 1 to 1. Slow down a little more. 2. And about the time we hit 150, 3. And throttle up. And we are going to set our RPM for 26. Gently bring the manifold pressure back up to 30. Try to keep the manifold pressure in the green while landing. There's our turnaround smokestack that I like to use. Gear is still up. And then we wait till we get a little bit closer to the runway. Keeping an eye on that temperature, because if it starts getting warm, we'll drop the RPM back down below 25. Right about here, we go flaps 4, lower the gear. Manifold pressure still 30. Throttle to 0. You can hear it popping. Engine does not like 0 throttle. This plane does not like to be 0 throttle. So once we start rolling to a stop, you're going to hear the engine start to sputter. You're going to need to, right about here, right about there, just bump the throttle up just a little bit to over 1,000 RPMs and slowly drag the brakes. And to set the parking brakes, feet off the brakes. You see that brake thing moving down there? You hold the brake, press the foot brakes and release them, and then let go of the brake, and there you go. You basically pulse the foot brakes while holding that out and then let it go. And then to release the brake, you just pulse the foot brakes again. But there we have it. We are landed and safe, and the plane didn't die. We'll be getting out here, technically, so flaps 5. Engine cutoff. But there we have it. I was trying to find why the plane was constantly blowing up. I knew it was a problem in the past. I knew I found a fix. I flew this plane for about 5 hours yesterday troubleshooting this. And if you fly it the way I was flying it, you should be fine. You can get a little bit more. Like in those short bursts, you can get over 45. As long as the manifold pressure isn't high. Excuse me, as long as the RPMs aren't over like 26, 27. And you're gentle with the throttle, slow forward, slow back, and you don't hold it there forever. And you keep an eye on the oil temp. If you've taken off with things locked open thinking that would fix it and it would still blow, it's because oil's too thick. You raise the throttle up, rev the motor up, and boom. If you sometimes just whacking the throttle too hard, even within the safe zone, the sudden oomph can cause it to break if it's hot at all. Or even if it's cold. It is very, very fidgety. I would recommend probably just flying the Spitfire instead, to be honest. But if you want to fly this, that's the trick. I tried online. I looked up online for all over the place, saw videos that didn't quite explain it well. All they did was they listed the actual specs. The actual specs are incorrect. If you follow the actual specs, the guidelines for the actual plane, you will blow the motor. You need to lower that by like 10 or 1,000 RPM or 100 manifold pressure, whatever. In the sim, and you're usually okay. You see, I never really go over 45. You're supposed to be able to go up to 50 and hold it at 50 forever. You're supposed to be able to. But I never do. Right? And 27 continuous for our 2700 or whatever for RPM continuous, right? But you go that far and it will blow. So since I couldn't find anything online in video form or text form that was sufficient in showing you how to keep the engine from blowing up, I figured it out myself and made a video. Hopefully that's helpful to somebody, and y'all have a good day. Enjoy flying your hot glass cannon.